Heat 2 is an upcoming crime film directed by Michael Mann, based on his novel co-written with Meg Gardiner. It serves as both a prequel and a sequel to his classic cops and robbers flick Heat, which starred legendary crime movie actors Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, facing off against each other for the first time in cinema.
How you doing?
The plot moves between the late 1980s, the aftermath of the 1995 events from the first film, and the early 2000s. It follows younger versions of Neil McCauley's original crew planning major heists, simultaneously following Vincent Hanna as he tries to track the leader of a gang of vicious home invaders.
Lieutenant Robbery Homicide, major crime unit. He's taken down some heavy crews. Blew away Frankie Yonder in Chicago. And he was a fucking maniac.
While also continuing the story of Chris Shihellis as he goes on the run after the events of the first film. At the same time, Vincent Hanna remains in full pursuit, with the story growing beyond Los Angeles into a more global crime network involving cartels and international operations. The cast is still being finalized, but at the time of the making of this video, in late March, early April, Leonardo DiCaprio and Christian Bale have both confirmed they are going to be in the film, which is set to start filming in August. Several other major actors have been linked to the project, including Austin Butler, Adam Driver, and Bradley Cooper. The actors are expected to play younger versions, and in some cases older versions, of characters originally played by the likes of Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and Val Kilmer, though at the moment, we don't know who's playing who. Now, my thoughts on the project have always been that the movie is completely unnecessary. We don't need a sequel to Heat, and if we did, the best time to make it was straight after the first film. Mann was in his prime, and you could use the same actors. If he wants to dive back into the world of crime cinema, why not just make a new story with new characters? There's so many hurdles for this film, made 30 years later to jump through, like reconciling all the different plots and timelines from the book, which is very expansive and which will be very difficult to cover in a single film. The film is also going to have the difficult challenge of recasting iconic roles. How will it work? Will Bale be doing a Pacino impression? Will Austin Butler play a young Chris and DiCaprio an older one, when there isn't that much of an age difference between Chris and the two timelines? So are we expected to believe that Butler turns into DiCaprio after about 10 years? Will the actors all be doing their own accents and mannerisms, or will they be trying to copy the ones from the original? It all worked in the book, because all you had to do was imagine Pacino and De Niro running around. But this is going to take some real suspension of disbelief and a lot of effort to pull off. And then there's the fact that Michael Mann is nowhere near the filmmaker he was in the 90s. His last 3 or 4 films have been at best decent, and that's being very charitable. However, it is being made. It's going ahead, it's got a big budget, big actors, it's probably Mann's final movie. So as I mentioned in my previous video on the project, I'm going to stop being a negative Nancy and just root for the film as a fan of the genre, willing for it to succeed. I would like nothing better than for it to come out this massive, sprawling, epic crime action drama made for adults, and to blow everyone away and revitalize the epic Hollywood crime genre, which seems to be pretty much dead at this moment in time. And since the film is going ahead, there is a list of stuff I want to see from the movie. So, let's count down some stuff I want to see tackled in Heat 2, and let me know what you want to see from the movie down in the comments section below. And while you're there, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell to stay up to date with videos. At number 1, I need to see Vincent Hanna do coke. Okay, listen, hear me out. Let me explain what I mean. Now, as fans of Heat know, Pacino acts absolutely wild in the original film. He lashes out in bizarre fashion against many of his prey, going from calm and collected to batshit, and then calm again in a matter of seconds.
Give me all you got!
Vincent.
Give me all you got! Because she got a great ass. And you got your head all the way up it.
Now, as I talked about in a previous video, in the script of the film, Pacino's character Hanna actually had a cocaine habit. There were shots of him envisioned taking a few sniffs here and there throughout the film, but in the final edit of the movie, all references to Hanna's coke use were removed. Pacino himself has spoken about this. In fact, he seems to bring it up a lot when he's asked about Heat. This is obviously conjecture on my part, but looking at interviews of his, I actually feel like he's embarrassed by his performance in Heat. and he keeps bringing up the coke thing as if to say, no, listen, I wasn't over the top. My character had a coke addiction, but it was taken out of the film. And in some ways I feel sorry for Pacino, because an actor's performance really is at the mercy of its director. I remember hearing, for example, that Sigourney Weaver was furious when James Cameron cut the scene where we find out Ripley has a daughter who died in Aliens, because she based her character around that pivotal fact. Her taking on the girl Newt as a surrogate daughter, her enemy the Queen being a mother, it all ties into the theme of motherhood and loss. And yet all the ticks in her performances are lost on us because that scene was cut out of the theatrical version. Similarly, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth for Pacino if audiences complain that he acted like a crack addict in Heat, and many fans do think he was over the top, when he actually did play him as a crack addict. But Mann axed the references to this from the film. And so, Heat 2 has the opportunity to right that wrong. I mean, we're all sitting here wondering whether this new film will be any good, but with this particular aspect, it actually has the chance of improving the original film slightly, as it will allow audiences to think, oh, that's why Hanna randomly goes ballistic. It's been a while since I read Heat 2, but from what I can remember, Hanna's coke addiction is referenced in the novel. There's a part, for example, where he goes into a club or something for some police business, and before he goes in, he does a quick deal with someone standing outside, taking a few sniffs. It adds another dynamic to the character, one could argue. Not just that he isn't a squeaky clean honest cop out to catch the bad guys, but in addition to destroying his family life in his relentless pursuit of criminals, he is also destroying himself, his own body, to keep up with them and take them down. One thing I want to see are, quite simply, cool shots, where we get some great cinematography coupled with awesome music and subtle but inventive camera work. I know it sounds like a generic thing to say, but there are so many moments throughout Michael Mann's filmography where cinematography, music and camera work are combined to create something magical. But ever since he started fiddling around with digital cameras, his films became worse and worse looking, and I really don't remember any amazing looking shots from Ferrari, Black Hat or Public Enemies. If the trailer for Heat 2 comes out and it looks like desaturated Netflix slop, I might just puke, because one of the best things about Michael Mann has always been how good looking his films are. I think to that part in Last of the Mohicans where they're all climbing up the mountain and we get a 10-second break where the music swells and the camera pans from the background landscape, things like that. When Mann was in his prime, his filmography was full of moments like that. Heat itself is jam-packed, full of these little musical moments, or whatever we want to call them. Like when Pacino is chasing down De Niro on the freeway as New Dawn Fades is blasting at full volume. It's such an epic moment. And there's a little shot that's always mesmerized me. When the car approaches the camera and we pivot to follow it. And once the car is running parallel with the stationary camera, all of a sudden, we're flying alongside with the car in a superbly hidden cut. And it times perfectly with the swell of the soundtrack. I remember years back when I was a kid, I was watching the film and I mentioned that cut to a family member as we watched it. I was like, isn't it cool how the camera's following that car and then as soon as it catches up, the camera completely speeds up and goes with the car? And they were like, you're too obsessed with films, man. And then I was sad. But if you look at the YouTube comment section for the video with this scene, I'm not the only one who noticed and thinks it's so cool. And that's what Heat is. It's so damn cool. And it's a vibe, a masculine energy that the sequel needs to capture. But it's not just that. These cool moments are never just that. They are always in service of the story and a way to enhance the state of mind of the main characters. One of the reasons why the freeway scene is so epic is because we know Pacino is closing down on his prey. The sudden cut to De Niro, it's like, oh crap, De Niro and Pacino are actually going to meet on screen for the first time, and the film accommodates the occasion with this scene that oozes badassery. What was this scene in the script anyway? A police officer gets out of a helicopter and into a car, and then flags down a perp and then asks him to join him for coffee? Because that's all it is really, isn't it? But it's Mann's awesome direction that turns it into something spectacular. The see you tomorrow scene from Ali when he's jogging and slowly realizes what the rumble in the jungle means to the African people is a magical moment. And there are numerous moments in the criminally underrated The Insider, which I actually think is within a shout to being Mann's best film. But there's numerous moments where the Russell Crowe character is going through a mental crisis and we have some excellent music going on to showcase his state of mind. We need those in Heat 2. Those moments. 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds of a film's runtime where you sit back and think, this is perfection. And action. We need good action.
Well, for me, the action is the juice.
Everyone knows how they had combat training for the first film. They used real guns. The gun noises were real. Val Kilmer's reload was so quick and realistic that it was used in real military training clips. These are iconic elements of the film which are no easy feat to match. There's a fair few action scenes in the book, one big one in the end, so the template is there. It's just a matter of whether Mann and his team are able to bring the juice. Alright, so I've got a controversial idea now, but hear me out. And let me know if this sounds absolutely stupid. But what if Heat 2 had a cameo from both Al Pacino and Robert De Niro? Now hold on. I know they're both ancient. How would that even work, I hear you ask? But I don't mean as the same characters from Heat 1. Just a few seconds where they appear in cameos, as a kind of tip of the hat to the new generation of actors in the film. A nod of acceptance, a passing of the torch. Someone commented in a video of mine about how cool it would be if De Niro played some veteran criminal who tells Neil McCauley in the film, whoever ends up playing Neil, the rule about never letting yourself get attached to anything for more than 30 seconds. And I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? That really isn't such a bad idea. I think it could help audiences accept the new actors playing these beloved characters if the original guys turn up for a quick wave at the camera. It wouldn't be the weirdest casting Mann has done. I remember when Jason Statham turned up in Collateral, basically playing the same character he does from the Transporter films. My mind goes to Martin Scorsese's remake of Cape Fear, where the cast of the original film, the one made in 1962, guys like Gregory Peck, Robert Mitchum and Martin Balsam, had small roles in Scorsese's remake. And Marty even did something interesting with their roles, reversing things. So the hero in the original, Peck, was defending the villain, and Mitchum, the villain in the original movie, was a good guy. And if we're already doing weird things with the casting in the new films, DiCaprio doing Val Kilmer maybe, Christian Bale doing Pacino, why not have Al and Bob pop in for a cameo before they check out? Another thing I want to see is interactions between the A-list actors and respect towards original characters. I mean, we still don't know how they're going to have these guys play Pacino, De Niro's and Kilmer's characters, and there are some serious issues I envisage. For example, in the book there is a scene where Hanna, who in your head is Al Pacino, is interrogating Edie, Neil's girl, and during the conversation she realizes that he killed him. There's gravitas there. There's power to this scene. How do you capture that? If instead of the original actors for Hanna and Edie, if instead it's Christian Bale or something? Immensely difficult to do, and it remains to be seen how they solve this issue. Regardless, if you're going to have guys like Leonardo DiCaprio and Christian Bale in your film, we want to see them interact, of course. But there is a danger that they might actually not even meet on screen, especially if DiCaprio is playing the older Chris and Bale is playing the new character Otis, as is rumoured. Even if you have a lot of good actors in the film, with there being like 3 different timelines, it's possible many of them won't meet. And the reason why it's important is because the whole De Niro versus Pacino thing was a big part of the original film. They are 2 of the best actors of all time. They are from the same new wave generation. One played the father character in the Godfather films, one played the son. They were often up for the same parts. They were rivals in a manner of speaking. And the film took that into account. It was part of the story of the film. I don't think there's any casting possible in today's age that can match that buzz between 2 rival actors like that. But DiCaprio and Bale is close, and I do hope we get more awesome actors added to the cast with meaty roles who are able to interact with each other. After all, Heat also had an excellent supporting cast in addition to the leads. One thing that I think will be necessary for the film is a polishing of the script. The book was good, and it gets a lot of praise online, but I don't see enough criticism of certain things that didn't work, because there were 2 things that stuck out to me as needing improvement. The first is the Chris future storyline. It's boring. That's just the way I feel about it. You can tell Mann is really interested in all that technology crime and stuff, and he's tapping into stuff he tackled in Black Hat, but it was a dull read, and I was going through it eager to get to Hannah's or Neil's storylines. And if Leonardo DiCaprio really is playing Chris, I imagine this part of the book is going to be part of the movie, and given he's such a huge actor, it's going to be given a lot of screen time. So it remains to be seen how Mann incorporates it. Another thing I found a little low par were the number of coincidences and contrivances. I mean, you could argue this happens in the original film as well. Like when Neil needs a driver, his old driver from previous scores just happens to be working at that diner. But it's not as noticeable in the original film. Characters in the sequel from all over the story just happen to be in the same city at the same time, crossing the same path at specific points in their lives, just to get them all in the same place at the same time. And this new character, Otis, he brushes paths with Hanna and with Neil. Hanna and Neil coming really close to interacting, but of course not doing so as they can't meet until the first film. In other words, the novel does feel like it dances around the original at times. Like Heat 1 is this massive entity, and the sequel is bits and pieces from before and after, trying very hard not to step on the toes of the original movie. And that's it, I guess. There's other things here and there, like Mann's need to capture the vibe of the 80s in the prequel storyline of utmost importance. And personally, I don't like some of the stuff he did with Neil in the prequel storyline, without giving away spoilers.
What happened out there?
Don't ask.
But those are smaller things. What do you want to see in Heat 2? Let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.